Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of Diary of a Sales Engineer. I'm Ryan Kruger, and today I'm joined with
Samir Sahai Kausar, and we got an exciting guest for you. I want you all to meet Alice Egan. She did not come up through engineering, computer science, or anything remotely technical. She was a French and linguistics major who fell into pre-sales at Zendesk and spent the first few months secretly Googling what's an API between customer calls. Out of pure survival, she taught herself how to talk tech, learning the language of cloud, software, and APIs, and quickly rose to support two of Zendesk's most technically demanding territories, the Bay Area and San Francisco, and UK fintechs. She eventually left to start SaaS Savvy, where she helps others non-technical pre-sales SEs build technical fluency and pre-sales clout no one teaches you in school or in onboarding. Today, her trusted advisor, OS, and coaching practices help SEs tell stories of software that convert and craft career narratives that boost credibility and opportunity. It's really exciting to have Alice on. I chatted with her, I don't know, a couple of weeks, maybe over a month ago at this point, and I thought it'd be super awesome to have her chat with our community because we know there are many of us SEs who don't come from a CS background, and Ryan and I do. So we thought we'd bring someone from the other side to talk about how she built up her technical chops and now how she's helping others do it. So welcome, Alice.
Thank you so much for having me. I am genuinely excited to be here. I love talking about this topic. I've built a whole business around it. So yeah, I just want to spread the word that you can be, you can get into pre-sales as non-technical, but you don't have to stay that way. And it doesn't look like the traditional technical computer science path that we all have, stuck in our heads because of the last 50 years of history.
So let's jump in where you fell into pre-sales. Like, how did you end up at Zendesk in the first place?
Yeah. So, as I said, I studied French and linguistics in college in Louisiana. That led me to getting a scholarship to live in Belgium for about 2.5 years. I also studied abroad twice in college. I was just very into history and languages, and I really just wanted to see the world. That was the only criteria I really had for myself. So, I lived and worked abroad for a few years. Ran out of visa and was forced very begrudgingly to move back to America. I'm originally from New York, and I just didn't want to go back to the East Coast. So California seemed like as foreign as it could possibly get in mainland US. And so I was going to move to LA. A friend was like, "You'll need a car. Why don't you go to San Francisco?" There's also this like burgeoning tech industry. I don't know if you've heard about it. This was in like early 2015. I really hadn't. Like, as I always joke, but I'm actually being serious. Like, it had never really dawned on me that people worked at Facebook. Like, I just don't think 10 years ago, like, tech was as prevalent in all of our lives. And I grew up on the East Coast. Like, I just had other interests. I wasn't ever really like into being on the computer all of the time. So anyway, I seriously moved to San Francisco wanting to get a job at the study abroad office at Cal State East Bay. There's like maybe one job doing that, so I didn't get it. But I eventually got into B2B SaaS. I started first working for a company that did mobile apps for events, which at the time was like a really new thing. You used to go to events and they'd give you like a stack of paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to work there because they said they did international events. And I was like, oh, maybe I can go move abroad again. But I had to put in my time in San Francisco. So I worked at another travel tech company, both times doing customer support and customer success. So I want to also point that out. When I got into pre-sales, I felt like the most like intense fish out of water imposter because I not only did not have a CS degree, any real technical background beyond like fitzing around with HTML on like the various WordPress blogs that I kept in the early 2010s. I also didn't have any like direct sales experience either. So I had a friend who worked at Zendesk, and she encouraged me to apply for the SC role, which said the word technical about 5 or 6 times in like, a 250 word job rec. And so I told her, I was like, there's no way I can do this. And she was like, no, 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 you can. It's creative. It's all about storytelling. And it was for an associate SC role, which is like just such a miracle because those are so hard to come by. And so, you know what? I showed up with my with my storytelling chops and my charisma, and also just several years learning not just the ins and outs of software products, but also like really understanding the tech industry.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the company took a chance on me, and I just had like a crazy ride at Zendesk, and it was partly because I challenged myself to learn the technical side, um, but also because the company was just in hyper growth mode. And I think I figured out ways that I love to teach to other people of how to grow your visibility and your brand internally inside a company, and also externally, which is so important in 2026 for like
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
finding a job and keeping a job. So yeah, that's how I, long story short, got into pre-sales, because I
How
feel
did
like most of
you?
us fall into it.
Yeah, I think you hit on something that I find is super common in the pre-sales community from like, a lot of the comments that I see on my post or a lot of people that reach out to me is regarding the imposter syndrome. So like as that first opportunity really materialized for you, how did you deal with that imposter syndrome and how did you calm those voices down at a certain point in time?
Yeah, lots of like Googling on mute. But really, I guess like, I don't know, my way of not feeling like an imposter is just figuring out how to know my shit. So I still have this doc somewhere. It was just like a running list of all these terms that came up. And like I actually made a LinkedIn post about this maybe 2 months ago, that got a lot of response because I explained from a historical perspective how it even happens that you can have technical sales consultants, who are not technical. And it's because of that pivot from selling like deeply technical on-premises solutions when like we were still figuring out what software was, like how infrastructure worked. And then this pivot to SaaS, and now to talking about AI powered tools. So when SaaS started looking more like Airbnb, obviously you could hire people with that charisma, that storytelling, and of course that curiosity that we always talk about when we talk about SCs. Like you can definitely have that, but at a certain point, someone's got to sit you down and tell you what an EC2 server is. You
Mm-hmm.
have to figure out what AWS is, and so basically, yeah, my way of getting over imposter syndrome was just figuring out how to know stuff. So what I did, was I started just writing down all these words, researching them, and then like I'm very structured. So I would just make documents, and like documents that link to other ones. And then I was like, oh, I could turn this into a course. There's other people on my team who also, I mean, they're not telling anyone but me, because I'm like shouting from the rooftops that I don't know, like I can package this up and give this to them. And so that kind of became the thing that I became known for, or actually really became the thing I became known for in the company, was like kind of filling in everyone's gaps so that people could actually understand what we were selling and sell more of it. So I started building out all these internal courses for myself and then giving them to other people. And that eventually led me to like the company creating me a job to do that full time and pivoting to product marketing. And then that's how I ended up leaving to start SaaS Savvy. So I feel like I hear people always saying like, "Oh, I don't want to like do something that's like not in my job requirements." And it's like, well, that is that is how you get ahead. Like if you're
Yeah.
just doing your job, and I don't know, maybe I just see too much like Gen Z millennial stuff on like YouTube. But all I hear is like, "Oh yeah, Gen Z just want to like do their job and check out." I'm like, you can do that, but like you won't even find the thing that you're good at if you don't do other stuff. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know I was good at that till I just did it. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And especially if you are have the desire of wanting to progress your career, you have to push outside the job requirement. That's the only way you're going to progress it. Otherwise, if you stay in the job requirement, and you're going to stay in the job. Like that's
Yeah.
um,
It's like that's just it.
pretty simple. That's just it. If you want to advance, you got to do more stuff. If it's not in your job description, until it becomes in your job description because you've been doing it.
Yeah.
Usually,
Yeah.
usually the talent or the job title comes after the work has been done. Hate to break it to you.
And we've
Yeah.
talked about it a
100%.
lot too. Like here in sales engineering, you have a lot of opportunity to actually expand your career in a lot of different directions. And if you decide that your job requirement is the only thing you are going to do and you never push yourself to learn something new or try something new or take on a hard project, like you basically are showing up, raising your hand and saying, yeah, here's what I do. I'm a demo monkey. I'm only in this for quote unquote technical wins. I don't really care if the business closes. I don't want to go to happy hours and dinners and marketing events. And look, like if that's you, that's totally fine. Like I think there are people that are like, that's, no worries. But if you're
Yeah.
looking to get ahead at a company, or you want to try to like go from one company to an amazing company that you're specifically looking at, like these are the sort of skills that they're particularly looking for. I know for Samir and I at the last company we were at, our manager really pushed us in a lot of different directions, even at times where it felt super uncomfortable. Where I was like, man, I don't really know if like that's what I want to learn, or like if I really want to spend time on it. But eventually, like those skills became so important for me. Like as I was interviewing for my current job, they had asked me things like, hey, what have you done? I'm like, well, I've done all these amazing things that he pushed us to doing, even though I was a little bit resistant. But it ended up teaching me some really amazing skills that set me up for a lot of success. So I do think like for SEs out there today, like if you're not doing those things, or you feel super comfortable in the role that you're at right now, like find a way to push yourself, like find a course online, find the topic that you want to go deep on. And even if it's something just in the company, maybe it's like a product SKU that you don't know really well, try to ramp on it, or get your manager to say like, hey, let's have you learn about this, have you meet with the team. I think there's a lot of different avenues for you to grow your career internally as well as externally, both personally and professionally. So definitely would encourage you to like try to bounce out of that world of like, here's what I do every single day. Like you have the opportunity to do a lot.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, I need to find like a side hustle in this company. Like do what feels good to you. Like do what meets your curiosity, or that you enjoy doing. Like I just really enjoy teaching. Like every job I've had, I've made some sort of resource that helped people understand complicated things, whether that was like rehauling our help center or like making an internal newsletter. Like I just was kind of drawn to that stuff, so it didn't feel like a huge burden to me. And other pro tip, if you do things that help other people, like people will also just really like you, and they'll start
Yeah.
looking at you as someone that they can like turn to and ask questions and bounce ideas off of. And that's how you grow also. And I don't know, I don't love the word brand. It's just too much. I just think like social media has just made everyone into a brand, but like people will know you internally, beyond just the pre-sales team, and like that's where new opportunities come from, and different ways to collaborate. Or like I don't know, if you do ever reach like principal SC and you're like, I got to do something else, like maybe you already have contacts in product marketing who are like, okay, cool, we've been collaborating for years, why don't you come work with us? So the more you do, it might lead you to go start your own business, or it might just like lead you to a new career path you hadn't thought of before.
Alice, I was at dinner last night, and just hearing you talk so far, like it really reminded me of something that came up, which was this concept of like owning what makes you different, and just like fully leaning into that. And to me, like just hearing you walk through your story, like it seems like early on you just were like, yeah, look, here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I like to do. And you just said, I'm going to be a different SE in my capacity. I'm going to be Alice, the SE that I want to be, own that. And I think it's just amazing because when you do that, not only do people respond around you, but it also allows you to flourish at the things that you do really well. I think there's this overarching concept today in sales engineering that says you have got to be so technical to do this job, right? You've got
Yeah.
to be able to stand up, and you've got to be able to troubleshoot, and you've got to be able to write lines of code. Don't necessarily buy fully that you need to be able to do those things, because I think you can be your own version, meaning maybe I'm really technical in this area, I'm less technical in this area. That's fine. I just own it and move forward. And to me, like hearing your story, like I think that's something that like you not only nailed, but you knocked out of the park, right? And I think that's amazing to just lean into like not only what makes you different, but to say like, yeah, I'm going to lean into this and just say, I'm going to own it. And I want to build something that helps people. Here's what I'm doing. And look at how like the world and the company responds around you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like I don't know, I know a lot of people like on my team did not feel as comfortable admitting that they didn't know stuff, because there is this like hubris in pre-sales, I feel, where people are really, really reticent to admit that they don't know stuff. And
Yeah.
honestly, like, I do have so much respect, and I really want to see more of this in our community on LinkedIn. Like, salespeople are out there every day being like, I just got off the worst call of my life. Here's what I learned. Like, or like, I just lost a deal. It was awful. Here's why I'll never do that again. Like, salespeople, I think there is this like mindset of, you will never be good enough at sales. You didn't study sales. You can't really study sales. You have to keep doing it and learning and sharing. And like, I so rarely see people saying like, here's not even like, here's what I don't know, but like, here's what I'm learning. Like, I just don't see that enough in our space. And I think I was like, I don't know. All these people hired me. My background says like BA in French and linguistics, doesn't code. Like, I don't know what an API is. Like, what do you want from me? Tell me. And I think also my background of like, I mean, in college, like I studied in Paris, I studied in Senegal, and then I spent 2.5 years in Belgium, figuring out how to like navigate this country as a 22-year-old, like all on my own. And I think that built a muscle in me where I was constantly speaking a second language, or learning a third language. And I always, you just kind of get in the habit of asking, what does that mean? Like, you have to know. And people can hear your accent. So they're like, oh, okay, like, I'll tell her what this means. Like, it's not a big deal. We can't all know everything, whether that's like all the words in a foreign language, or brand new cloud computing technology that even if I went back to school, like AWS launched in like 2006, like I just wouldn't have even been able to study it. So I think we all as a community need to get more in this idea of like, yeah, we're all constantly learning too. Tech is changing. I mean, even think about like AI 2 years ago, like you got to be
So
kidding me.
fast.
So I think we should all be a lot more upfront about the things that we don't know and the things that we're learning, because it'll just make our community like that much stronger,
Yeah,
and
I
honestly more fun because people don't feel like they have to hide.
definitely agree on that. And I think it just a couple things that sparked. One was when Ryan and I were working together, we were in the AI space and our manager recognized that it was moving quickly. And so he kind of deputized each of us to be like, okay, you go figure this out because none of us know how to do this. And then we all were like, yep, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. And it's like, okay, I'll go figure that one out. You go figure that one out. And then we would come together and teach each other and then be like, oh, that's how it works.
Yeah.
And like, and so we like split, we like had a group hive mind, I guess, to go and keep up with all the changing tech. Now, the second part, what you said was like when you're learning languages, I don't know if I read this somewhere or listened on a podcast, but there is like 20% of the words, at least in conversations, there's like 20% of the words that get you 80% of
Yes.
the, getting around. So if you really focus on that 20% when you're learning a new language and you're in a new space, like how do I go to the bathroom? Where, like, what do I get to drink? I need my groceries, like those things. In that similar, like what is the 20% from like a technology perspective when you're working with your clients? Like what is that kind of that 20% that gets them the 80%? If I'm someone not technical trying to break into pre-sales, like what are those that 20% that's going to get me far?
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you brought that up because that is like the crux of my trusted advisor operating system, which is like part self-paced course and just part knowledge base of all of this stuff that, as I said, they don't teach you in school and you never learn in onboarding, that like tech agnostic stuff. Because companies will like teach you to push products all day, but they don't take you that further step back to teach you the fundamentals of like, what is software, what is code, what is my solution developer doing when he's like adding custom JavaScript to my instance or something like that. What is the cloud? What are these integration platforms that we're using to like duct tape all of these different systems together? So right, if you can learn that 20% and just like understand what someone is even getting at or referencing when they say Docker or Kubernetes, um, it doesn't feel so foreign. And the thing that I've done in my course as well is like, I do not just teach people like, this is what Docker is. Wow, how boring. I also don't teach people to code because our jobs are not coding, especially in this day and age. Like, is it good to know how to code? Yes. I would never tell someone not to. I don't think it's the best use of an SC's time to learn how to code. I think it's a better use to learn to talk about code, to understand how it works, what developers are doing, and in that sense, I teach technology through history. So you have these stories that, as you're listening to them, bring up these concepts that then you hear, just like you hear when you're at a grocery, like when I go to the grocery store here in Berlin. I don't understand everything that people are saying to me, but like I've got words here and there. I've seen the scenario before. And then the other thing that I do is when I teach this history and this concepts, I always bring in content from like venture capital firms, from tech journalists, so that people are hearing, kind of like when I go to the grocery store, you're hearing all of these things spoken about beyond the walls of your product and in the industry, so that you can, as we're always being told, elevate the conversation, beyond our little moats. So I 100% brought in a lot of my experience learning all these different languages in my 20s, because that's how I saw tech. I was like, I'm not going to learn to code this. I just need to be able to talk about this with a CTO without just like reading line for line off of whatever the product marketing deck says this is.
That was such an unlock for me during my time working in ERP technologies. And I was trying to really like grasp my head around all the accounting concepts. And I remember one of my colleagues, he had been a previous, he'd been like a previous CFO or something along those lines. And I was sitting down and I was really just trying to understand like the very basics of accounting. He goes, Ryan, the one thing you need to understand is, he's like, no one is ever going to ask you like, what is a debit and what's a credit? He's like, at high
100%.
level, you just need to understand the concepts that we're trying to get at here. And that was really like an amazing unlock for me to say, oh, okay, like I need to go deep enough to like understand all the fundamentals of all these things. But again, no one's ever going to come up to me and ask me like that pointed of a question. I just need to understand like the high level concepts. So I think one thing that I would like to ask you is, for SEs that are out there that maybe aren't as technical, where can they go and find these kinds of stories to help them like understand the landscape? Because I find like a lot of the technical documentation online is more centered around like courses to teach you how to code, not around like courses to teach you about coding in general or like coding best practices, unless you have a friend that specifically does that you can go and have dinner and drinks and they'll explain to you what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, not to like totally plug my program here, but it is the only one. So when I was at Zendesk and I was trying to teach myself, what is AWS? What's an EC2 server? What is Nginx? All this stuff. Yeah, I would either go on the pre-ChatGPT internet. And honestly, oh my God, I was saying this to someone the other day. It was also so stressful because, like, let's say early 2020s Google, that was when it was really starting to get like enshittified. So I would type in like, what's a CPU? And then it would be like the 5 things you need to know about CPUs to not be entirely irrelevant forever. And it was just like, it was all really like FOMO stoking. So after months, I was just like, oh my God. Like, so that was super stressful. Then all the other, like, you would either find developer documentation, boring. Like Red Hat, for example, has an amazing online glossary of like a lot of technical terms. I learned a lot from Red Hat topics, but it's also a blog. So at the end of all of this like wonderful information, it's like, here's why you should buy Red Hat. So then you just feel more sold to. And then I would also watch a lot of like coding videos for kids from Khan Academy, which is great. But I'm like, I am like a 6-figure professional. I do not want to be like patronized to in some like sweet syrupy voice. So that is why I built my course, because I think adult professionals should be able to learn this without having to watch a video for 7-year-olds. However, I want to give you some other options. So give me 2 seconds.
Ooh, okay.
Actually, these are some of my Bibles. If you want to start off like having a better understanding of the tech industry in general, this is like my Bible. It's such an interesting book. It's called How the Internet Happened from Netscape to the iPhone by Brian McCullough. He also has a podcast where he reads out loud the book as he was writing it. So much context that really grounds you in like where we are in the tech world and also in SaaS. This book called Go To by Steve Lohr, it's actually about the evolution of the computing industry. I think from like 1950 to 2001, like this book was written in 2001. So that's also an interesting place for the book to end because he's like so optimistic about so many things. And then like this book, Becoming Steve Jobs, one of the autobiographies. I would also recommend Wired magazine takes a very liberal arts focused approach to technology. Like I spent months trying to figure out what Docker containers were. I just did not understand the context behind them. And I read a few articles on Wired written like 10 or 15 years ago. And that was just, they tell stories. Like it's so true. I think in corporate America, we're constantly talking about storytelling. They've sort of co opted the term. But like I'll give it to Wired. Like that's how they do it. And follow the journalist Cade Metz he used to be at Wired. He's now at the New York Times. I mean, he's just like a masterclass in what talking about technology through the lens of business and culture, which is really what we're doing too, sounds like. So we can put those in the show notes.
Okay, love that.
What's one of your favorite stories that you share when it comes to trying to explain certain pieces of technology?
Okay, I could talk about APIs for days. When I first started Googling on mute, what's an API? The most common, and this is also why, like, a lot of people will say to me, like, I could just like copy paste the syllabus you have on your on your web page and just put it into ChatGPT. I'm like, you could, but you're going to get a million half truths. And ChatGPT has been trained on all the crap that the internet has just decided is like the way we talk about this stuff. So for the last like 25 years, people have talked about an API as a waiter. Like there's like the first video you'll see on YouTube when you look this up, you see this like waiter like hurrying from the kitchen to the back room. So like I used to think of an API based on that video as kind of like a bot, like those crawler bots that like crawl the internet for like SEO and stuff, something that kind of like moves around. An API doesn't move. An API, there is the code of your software application. Let's say that's Salesforce. Just imagine that sitting on a server somewhere. An API is a layer of code. It's kind of like a castle. It's kind of like the castle walls. And it protects everything inside the software, the data and functionality. But then they put a door that gives you access to data and functionality inside the app so that it can work with others. The analogy I use in my course is it's kind of like, think of a safe, like a vault in like a Swiss bank. You have to authenticate, right? There's this big wall that's dividing you from all this data and functionality inside, money, jewels, whatever it is. You authenticate, you're able to open the door and then get access to the stuff that is, only for you. So I'd like to dispel the myth that an API moves or even does anything. It doesn't do anything. It's just a door that opens and closes and gives you access to stuff without having to hand over the keys to an entire software application, because that just wouldn't be secure, and it's also not what developers want. They just want
It's
the good
actually
stuff.
a really cool visual. Like I have this in my head now that like, when you want to go and you want to pull information out of Salesforce, like you go into the Swiss bank, like you're getting authenticated with your ID, and then they're walking you down to your security lockbox, right? And there's all the other ones that are in there. There's somebody that handholds you all the way through, and then you only have a key to your box and your box
stuff.
only for your information, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Like Salesforce has hundreds of thousands of customers, so those boxes are down there too, but you can only pull out your information. I like that. It's actually a really great visual.
Yeah, it's very Da Vinci Code.
We're watching like Harry Potter because it's Harry Potter season right now. And if it's not Harry Potter season for you, it's Harry Potter season. But it just reminded me of them going to like Green Gots and like having to show there. And then you can have people try to hack it. And when Harry wears the cloak, the invisibility cloak and whatnot. So you got my mind thinking. As soon as you started talking about it, I was like, oh, is it like sending owls? And I was, no, it's more like going to Green Gods. Sending owls is more like a weighted thing. I actually really like that way of thinking about it, because it's a lot more accurate, especially when you have to authenticate. It's like, hey, this is who I am. Here's my identification. And then they provide you a return key that then you can use to access your data. I like that. Definitely work with Alice, because she seems like she's got a lot more up her sleeves there.
It's a lot more fun. Is that Harry Potter content for LinkedIn? I think there's
was already thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay, who's gonna beat us to it? Yeah.
All right, I'm turning push notifications on so that way I don't double dip on the Harry Potter bank API content.
I'm sure it would
So
all come out a little bit different, but yeah.
yeah, so Alice, I'm actually like really curious, like from your end, the storytelling aspect is so big. Have you ever had a moment in your career where you felt like the storytelling wasn't able to get you over the hump with a customer, and how did you handle that? Did you go loop in another resource? Did you say like, I don't know? Because I'll tell you, like, I think one of the best skill sets any SE can have is just like brutal honesty with prospects to just raise their hand and say, yeah, I don't know. Let me go look that up for you after today's call, right? Let me go research, let me go connect with teammates. But I guess, how have you handled that in your career, and like what were some strategies and methodologies that you used so that way our non-technical audience that's like looking to break into sales engineering or has that first job right now and might feel some of that imposter syndrome, they know what to go and do?
I would say when I was in SC, I was just like all about the story. And I'll be honest, like, I mean, Zendesk is a very easy software to tell stories about because you have customers and you have agents and third party, delivery people, whatever it is. So it was always easy to tell a story. And yeah, like, I guess I would also say there are like this is why I'm like a big proponent of having like different titles for different kinds of SCs, because for example at like, I don't know, GitHub and Stripe, you don't really have non-technical SCs. Like you have to be technical to demo and like really consult on those products. We are consultants. I think where like in your Zendesk, Salesforce, Workday, like marketing technology, CX, AI tools, you're probably never going to get on a call and really talk in depth and like tell a story about like we're going to use Workato, the integration platform, to send a webhook to, like, unless you're on like a deeper call with a I don't know, like a follow up or something. uh so I guess like the level of super deep technical storytelling will definitely depend on like what you are talking about. And I think like during a demo it is important to keep the conversation higher level and not to get into those like technical nitty gritty conversations. But if you want to be prepared in follow ups or like deeper dives, that is where you should really aim to understand. Like, if you don't take my course and you want to do this on your own, I would say like the way I would encourage you to prompt chat GPT so that you can be more in like storytelling consultative mode rather than like rapid vocabulary quiz mode on these kind of calls, would be to like ask chat gpt, be like, I want you to tell me about Docker containers. Just let me know you understand that. Okay, good. Can you tell me what life was like before Docker containers? um Got it. Sounds like a nightmare. Now tell me what they are, and now tell me the value. Like, that's how you can kind of story tell it for yourself, so that you're never just looking up like rote responses to like what this thing is, because that gives you no context. So I guess that would be my advice for if you are a non-technical SC, having more technical conversations. Stop just looking up random definitions on the internet. Start asking what life was like before, what this thing is, and then the outcome, so that you're more primed to be in storytelling mode when it comes to talking about that with customers.
Yeah, and that concept also works when you're with customers. I think someone called it the pain gap, and the larger the pain gap, the more value you bring. So, what is life before you work with us? What do we do, and what could life be after? And
Yeah.
the bigger
Yeah.
that gap you can make, the more likely they're going to want to work with you if you show them that, hey, our product will bridge that gap and get you to the promised land. So that concept works perfectly
Mhm.
as well when you're talking to customers and helping them understand what you do. Uh, so I love that.
Yeah. And also, yeah, as Ryan was saying, for sure, if you don't know something, just be like, I don't know. I mean, if you want to be like really super authentic, which I think people appreciate these days, you can like admit as much. But yeah, it's always like everyone's always an email away, right? Or a Slack. I'm old fashioned. I like email, but it's
I think
me.
that's one of the hard things of like that I've seen from sales engineers, like in my career, though, is that as a whole, I think we're all a bit more resistant to say I don't know, because there feels like I don't know, like a technical gap that you're admitting to that you're afraid to admit to. And for whatever reason, I find that a lot of times SEs will try really hard to not say, I don't know, oh, okay, let's do this, right? And then they'll spend 5 minutes down a rabbit hole or 10 minutes down a
Yeah.
rabbit hole. And then the person on the other side is actually just like, man, this guy really just doesn't understand what I'm saying. We're like not really focused on the product anymore. The other resources that are on the call are all really confused because maybe they're not experts in that, the question that's being asked. And that's why I think it's like so important. Just say, I don't know. Let me go get that answer for you. Or if they're asking you questions about something that you just like really maybe only understand high level or conceptually, like sometimes if I ever get pulled into like large security conversations, like in a previous role, I would always talk to the CISOs. I would kind of like start off the conversation with the CISOs of saying like, look, I'm a solution engineer here, but I'm not a security expert. So if there are questions that you ask me today that I don't have a fundamental understanding in, my, sort of commitment to you as my prospect is that I will never tell you something I do not know or feel 100% confident in. Even if I feel like 90% confident, I will let you know that and say, look, I'm pretty sure we handle it this way, but let me go confirm that with our team. And that's my commitment to you. And I feel like that's a really good way of like destabilizing the room, so to speak, or like destabilizing the Zoom call where the other person says, oh, that's right. Ryan hasn't spent the last 10 years solely focused on security, which I have, meaning like my level of expertise here is a lot greater than Ryan's. But what he's going to do is he's going to go get me the right answers and follow up with his team or bring in a security resource if that's needed. Like, I'm okay to say that. And it's actually worked really well. So, like, I encourage you, if you feel that way, you're put in a situation, that sort of verbiage I find has worked really well for me.
I love that too. That is my commitment to you. Like that's just so immediately thoughtful. And I think that totally works because people just don't want to have their time wasted. So I think people would much yeah, I mean, clearly from your experience, and I think all of our experience, people react to you being upfront, not about what you don't know. They don't care. They don't even know you. They have like 80 other things on their mind. Like they have their own job. They just want to know that you're going to make their life easier for them and give them the information they need to make a decision. So, yeah, I think it's always worth remembering. Like they're not really here to judge you. They just want the right information, and I think you can use that. That is my commitment to you. I think that's super strong. I really like that.
And another thing that I know I was always introduced to as is this is the technical expert. I hate you say, hey, this is Samir. I brought him on the call. He's our technical expert, and it's like that always was like hard to be like, well, if I'm an expert, I have to know everything.
Yeah.
So that's tough. And another thing I started doing is like telling my AE how he should introduce me. I gave him I was like, here, when we're on prospect calls, here's your 2 sentences. It's like, just read this. Don't call me a technical expert. That doesn't help us. That just also like creates a divide. So if you are being called a technical expert by your AE, come up with something else for them that's not technical expert. Because I think that also messed with my head of, okay, I need to know everything. I can't say I don't know because experts don't say they don't know.
Mm.
Hold on. Let's pause right here. What would you say? What would you say if you're an account executive, you're introducing your solutions engineer? What are you saying?
I would say that, hey, I brought in Samir. He's worked with a lot of customers that are similar to you, and he's very familiar with XYZ domain or XYZ problem. Because I'm assuming as an AE, I've already done a little bit of discovery. I already know what makes this particular prospect somewhat unique, and focus on that and saying that Samir has experience working with customers your size, working with customers in your domain, in your vertical, trying to solve similar problems as you, and kind of leave it there. Not really say there he is the technical expert on the problem on the product. He is more of he's been there, he's worked with people like you who look like you, who have similar problems to you, and you can provide a consultative approach given your situation and what you're trying to solve.
But yeah, I mean, this is why honestly, like the word technical, it kind of needs to be retired. It's actually completely meaningless. Like, what does technical mean? I think like we all have a general idea of what it means in our particular industry, but like if you looked it up in the dictionary, it doesn't say knows how to code. It just means like a deep understanding of something. In our industry, it tends to imply this person has experience with software development. But like the reason it's also not helpful with SCs is because we know now there's such a breadth of software, from like business apps to developer tools to like infrastructure. Calling someone technical in like a Zendesk setting means something totally different from a sales consult or a solutions consultant with the same name, like working at VMware. So I do think it's important, because I think that's part of where this culture and this like kind of internalized imposter syndrome in pre-sales comes from, is that we all have the same name, but we all have different levels of whatever technical is. We all have different levels of it. And that's supposed to be celebrated. Um, so yeah, I just think like I use the term non-technical because people understand what it means. For a long time, I tried not to. I think people can just identify with it, unfortunately. So, I'm trying to grow my business. I'll do what it takes. But I would ultimately like to define this new category of tech sales technical, which I think is the best kind of technical, because no one wants to sit down and hear someone talk about, like, I don't know, how Python works. Like most people don't want to know that. Most people are interested in technology now from the business perspective, from the cultural perspective, from like the way it invades our lives. So if you are tech sales technical, your whole job is to talk about tech and tell stories in this really interesting, inspiring way. Doesn't everyone want to be interesting and inspiring? Like, let's define a new category. That's what I'm here to do.
Snip that out, like that right there. If you are listening, you will sell a ton of software if you understand that core, like just that core idea that Alice just dropped knowledge on. Like, you've got to understand, no one ever really wants to know like how your solution was wired or how it works, like from a technical standpoint. What they want to know is the business value that it delivers and how it's going to transform their lives in some capacity. The best way to do that is to not sit down and say, well, here's how the Python works in the background. Here's how our scripts are actually running. Here's how it's deployed. Like, it just, they really don't care. So what? Ask yourself that question. They are there for the business value and business impact. Like, that is so important. You will sell a lot more software if you understand that key fundamental.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
feel
just
like
so
the
much easier to learn what Python is rather than how to code it. It's just so much easier and faster. Do you have to, you got other things to do.
Yeah, I mean, think about your car. You don't care about how the internal combustion engine works. You just know if I put gas in the tank here and I hit this pedal, I go, and at this one, I stop. Like, and
That's
it
it.
gets me from my house to where I want to go. That's all you care about.
One in every 100 buyers maybe goes to, the car dealership and opens up the hood and says, let me see the engine. Majority of the people just get in the car, they drive it, they say, ask me, or ask the salesperson about the features and functionality. Like, oh, tell me about the stereo. They're not asking you how the stereo was wired. They're asking you, like, what type of stereo is it? Oh, it's a touch screen, it's a voice command, it has like really great sound quality. Here's the brand of speakers that we use. Not asking you how the speakers were wired, nor would there ever be an expectation that a car salesman would know all of those things. Sure, every once in 100 people you might run into that, and from sales engineering you will also run into that every once in a super blue moon. And that's why, like, it's good to have those sort of like technical foundation layers to be able to lean on. But again, like, I only think you need to go so far. I don't think you need to go into like actually like wiring the car to really understand exactly what it is that you're selling.
Yeah. And I think even if you are a solutions, like what I would call like a solutions engineer, like you are like a very technical solutions engineer working for a very technical like developer tool product, your job is still business related. So taking a step back, if you haven't, either through my Trusted Advisor operating system or through one of these damn books, having that context that takes you out of just developer speak, again, like that just makes it so much easier to tell that narrative of business value. So yeah, we got to get out of the lines of code. It's boring.
Yeah, I have one last question for you, Alice. How would in 2026, how would you define, or I'm at a dinner party and I'm in pre-sales and people are like, what is that? What is your 1 to 2 lines of describing what pre-sales is to a someone who's not in SaaS or B2B?
I would say I am a software product and ecosystem expert. So I help businesses understand our various software solutions and also how they plug into the enterprise backends of like many different other software systems and various tools so that they can all integrate and automate uh, and drum up data to train AI models so that they can operate as companies in the 21st century, 2026. I sort of that got a little bit long, but yeah, I would say that product expert and tech ecosystem because it's never about your product. Software does not exist in a vacuum. So that's really the SE's job to understand not just your software, but all the other stuff that it's got to integrate with and the tech that lets it do that. APIs.
I really like that.
Yeah.
The ecosystem one's I think something that's slept on actually.
Yeah.
So that's a good one.
I am going to steal some version of that. I have been just like, I don't know, I don't want to call it like a rut recently, but like the past few months, I have fallen into the trap of doing the technical resource thing. Like, hey, I'm Ryan, I'm your solutions engineer, I'm your technical resource that'll be helping assist. I just like every time I say it, I just what are the kids called today? The ick. Like it gives me the ick, and I can't stop right now. So I'm gonna push myself, finishing up this year and heading into next year to like totally change that up to just have a brand new line around that. So I think I'll probably go for that like product expert, tech ecosystem, and I'm here to help you like transform your business. Like I think something along those lines is kind of a slam dunk in there. I just got to figure out exactly what the pitch is going to be.
Okay, cool. Well, let me know when you figured it out. But I think that rolls off the tongue really nice. And it also like doesn't bog customers don't want to get bogged down in technicalities either. So just keep it, elevate. It's constant process of elevation.
Alice, as we're wrapping up here, any final thoughts for our audience?
Final thoughts for the audience. 2026, I'm stepping into 2026 fully being myself. I am very confident. I am like super outgoing. I'm so passionate about what I do, but I also still have imposter syndrome. I'm really getting tired of it. I think a lot of people in pre-sales are tired of it. People are stressed out about layoffs. They are just nervous about what's to come. And I really think if you just double down on yourself, be yourself at work, like do your job, but follow your other interests and just don't hold yourself back and double down. Like just double down on your interests, your work, and not feeling like you have to hide from other people because that only like holds you back.
Amazing. Well, we'll put all of the contact info for you. Best way for people to reach out to you: LinkedIn, your website. What are we plugging right now?
Yeah. So I am gonna actually be I've like rebranded my program a bit. It's now called the Trusted Advisor Operating System. So I'm going to be doing like a launch around that in the next week, or I don't know. I have to figure out if I do it before Christmas or January, but you will hear about it. So I will link to my website where you can explore my operating system and also learn more about what it means to work with me one-to-one as an SC who's looking for a new job or just to build more confidence in the work that you do and where you can take your career.
Amazing. It was awesome having you, Alice.
Thank you. This was so fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. That was awesome. What are your initial thoughts, Ryan?
Initial thoughts. That's like, it's so on brand for us. Like, I feel like you and I specifically have been championing this idea of like, as an SE, you don't need to be the most technical resource in the world or the most technical resource at your company. And so I feel like, speaking to Alice today, it just really resonates with a lot of the messages that we've been putting out there for a while. So from that end, like, I don't know, it just felt like awesome to talk to somebody else who like totally agrees and totally understands that concept. And honestly, I really think that one part where I said like, snippet this, I think that's such like a core fundamental. Like if you can just keep it above, right? Like I think there's like let's like maybe I don't know. We'll use an analogy here, and we'll see how it goes.
See how it
Like
goes.
there's the ground floor, right? And as you're given a demo, like you're on the ground floor. I think a lot of the times when we start to get into those technical layers, I think sometimes we're actually starting to walk into the basement a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're no longer seeing sunlight. Sometimes it's important, right? Like sometimes I have to go to the basement because maybe like at my parents' house, like in the basement, there's a fridge down there and it's got the Gatorade. So like I want to go down there and grab a Gatorade.
I'm
But
thinking
like for the
that's where
most
my
part,
water heater is, and that's
yeah,
where
right,
something's
yeah,
broken. I got to
your
go
water
fix it or
heater,
something.
your laundry machine's down there, right? So like
Yeah,
you sometimes
the
like
utilities.
yeah, right. It's like sometimes you got to go down there, right? But you don't necessarily want to like live in the basement, so to speak, right? And so I think it's really nice, like when you can go down there and fix what you need to fix, and then head back upstairs, get back to ground level. But at the end of the day, like where do you want to go to bed? Like you typically go upstairs to go to bed, right? And so I think when we keep it higher level, when you keep it higher level, I think it just holds more weight for the business value. It also holds the attention span of the resources that are actually designated for this call. I don't think like most resources ever get on the call and go like, you know what I want to do? I want to talk about EC2 and S3 today. Like it's just they don't. They
They
really
could care
don't. At
less.
least that's what I've experienced in my
Yeah.
career. Maybe there's SEs that haven't, but overall, I think like the more high level you can keep it, the more likely you are to actually close a lot of business.
Yeah, and to even pull that thread of your analogy a little bit more, the higher you go, the further you can see. And so if you are higher up and you bring the prospect with you and you show them, hey, all the sun that touches the land is yours. Like I think it helps you paint the picture of what is possible when you ultimately sign with us and do work with us, when we elevate the conversation to be like, hey, in order for us to see over the trees, I need to lift you up a little bit so you can understand the ecosystem, how we fit in. I think that was actually a great explanation by her about I don't only understand our software. I understand how our software sits in the broader breadth of your
Yes.
tech ecosystem. Because when you are selling to someone, you're not the only software that they have. Like, let's be real. Everyone is running a bajillion different applications in different places, and you need to understand that and be able to dictate that, hey, we fit into this area for this reason, and this is how we interact with the other pieces of your tech stack as well as the other pieces of your company. So I thought that's something I'm going to definitely start using is like I understand
Okay.
software and I understand the ecosystem.
I've got a challenge for you. I've got a challenge for our audience today too, as we like wrap up the episode here. My challenge for you and I think the next time we record, which will be rather soon here, I think we both have to come with a new, 1 to 2 sentence pitch around what it is that I do as an SE. I think that'll be a fun exercise. And then I'm going to challenge the audience, send us a message, write a comment, drop a post, let us know what you are saying as you are introducing yourself as an SE. I would love to hear the responses. I'd love to hear the creativity. Let's, as a community, come up with something really amazing. Because, like I said, I've really been fed up with myself of calling myself the technical resource. I'm just like, I don't want to do it any longer. I haven't taken the time though to like actually workshop like something new. Something I did in the past was call myself a technical tour guide, which I like, but I feel like it's a little bit not, maybe it's just not something I love to do anymore. And so
Yep.
I want something new. I love this idea of like the tech ecosystem. So I think that's the challenge for both you and I, as well as the listeners of Diary of a Sales Engineer. Let's come up with something amazing and let's workshop it together.
I love that. All right, I got to drop here for a demo, but
Yep.
this was a great episode. And we'll talk to you all soon.
See you, everyone.
Bye.